Yo, what up, e-commerce family? So this is gonna be a raw talk. I'm gonna sit down and share some of my most actionable piece of advice and strategies that I've learned through my 7 years of e-commerce. Now, over these last years, I have built dozens of brands to multi-7 and 8-figure run rates, both in the D2C world and in the dropshipping space. So I'd like to think that I've learned a thing or two about how to operate a successful e-commerce company or dropshipping store at scale. So this video is gonna be a bit different because I asked my inner circle to come up with 5 questions that they had and that the average brand owner or dropshipper has to get my advice on how to navigate multiple different areas of e-commerce. Now, if you wanna be a part of my inner circle and that group of brand owners that I work with one-on-one to scale their brands to new heights, just DM me the word inner circle over on Instagram and I'll share more information. All right, so I don't wanna waste your time. Let's get into question number 1. How do I find a winning product? All right, so I got a ton of content covering this, but I want to try to answer it in a very quick and a very concise way because there's a lot of complexity surrounding this topic that causes way too many brand owners to get overwhelmed and never even go ahead and launch their first product. So first, I would like to define what a winning product actually means to me. So I consider a winning product a high potential, evergreen product, so a product that can be sold all year round, that is not easily accessible for people to get elsewhere, such as in local stores, on Amazon, or from other brands through Google Shopping listings. That way it has some level of uniqueness to it and exclusivity where the customer feels like they can only get that product from your brand. And then one of the last pillars that's important to me, then I'd like to see that it has good unit economics. So if you're advertising right now on Facebook or TikTok, you know that costs are at an all-time high and you can't do none of this free plus shipping bullshit anymore or sell $10 and $20 products profitably. I like to shoot to have at least a $25 to $30 margin on every product that I'm selling. And if I can't get that, then I deem that product way lower potential and much harder to actually scale profitably. And the last pillar that's incredibly important to me personally is having proof of concept in the demand for this product. So I wanna make sure it's in a very large and a very passionate market. If it's just in one or the other, it's not gonna have as much potential as if it were in both. All right, so now that you know the characteristics of what I would consider a winning product, something with enough margins that can reasonably be profitably scaled, something that has a high demand in a large and a passionate market, a product that ideally can be sold all year round and isn't limited to just being sold one time per year, and a product that is unique and is not easily accessible to get elsewhere. So now that you know what a winning product is, how do you go about finding your first high potential product to go ahead and test on your store? So one of my favorite methods that I like to say that I pioneered, but in reality, I'm sure many people have done this way before me, is something I like to call the rabbit hole method. Now, the rabbit hole method means it doesn't matter where you start your product research, whether you go to a local dollar store or you use a product research tool like Winning Hunter or Mania, or even if you're using a free method like going to TikTok Shop or watching organic TikTok videos or optimizing a Facebook feed or Facebook ads library. The truth is, it doesn't matter where you go to start your product research or even to look for products. What matters is that you end up on a high potential winning product. Now, from a 1,000-foot overview, the rabbit hole method is finding a product that other people are selling at a very high scale that might be a little bit too competitive for us to be comfortable going ahead and selling it. For example, now that we're approaching the winter, I think of these fuzzy slippers that sell all year round. Now, using the rabbit hole method, rather than selling those same fuzzy slippers that everyone sells every single winter, I would go to AliExpress or Amazon or Taobao or DHgate or Temu or any of the other large marketplaces of physical product goods. I would go to the recommended product sections on these platforms and I would click through to very similar products that look a little bit different enough to where if someone owned those original fuzzy slippers, they would still consider buying the product that you're selling and own both of them at the same time. So let's say that I talked to a supplier or I found a listing that was a patriotic set of fuzzy slippers, and it had designs that were very strong towards Americanism and patriotism. That would be an example of an awesome product because presumably way fewer people are selling that product. It still has similar characteristics and it solves a similar problem that we know is in very high demand based on the original product that we stumbled across. And it's an iteration that serves a very, very specific market that is super passionate about their country. So moral of the story, make sure that you have a certain set of validation criteria that you can use to scan and filter products into a high potential category or a low potential category, and only go ahead and test the ones that meet those high potential criteria. All right, question number 2 is, how do I win at paid ads? So while this is a super broad question, after spending probably close to $50 million on ads at this point, I would say running paid ads successfully only comes down to a couple of very key things. One of them is having a high volume of very high quality creative output, because you totally can have one creative by itself, that's very simple, that's not super mindful of consumer psychology, that scales to 100K a month for a year straight. But that's very rare. And in most cases, to get to that winning creative, you have to test 20, 30, 40 different creatives every single month to stumble across those few that are gonna really hit and start making you money. So if there was one thing that I would focus on being a master at, if you want to really scale with paid ads, it is ad creative concept ideation and it's execution of having a very high volume of content output. If there was a second thing that I'd recommend is understanding data analysis. So know what metrics matter and what metrics don't. So don't kill yourself over metrics that are a little bit more difficult to control, such as the CPM, which is the cost to reach 1,000 customers, and focus more on the metrics that are in our control, such as our click-through rate, aka the effectiveness of our ad creative resonating with our audience, or our website conversion rate, which is a direct result of how compelling the offer that we present on our website is and how well structured our landing page is. And by being patient with letting your ads run and by focusing on the metrics that matter and reverse engineering what metrics you need to see in order to hit scalable profitability, you'll know very definitively when you need to cut something, keep something, or scale something. Don't get hung up on the fancy strategies, because we have accounts that are scaling at $30,000 a day right now with just a few broad targeting campaigns, rotating in a ton of new creatives every single week. That's really all that there is to it. And that goes for Facebook, that goes for TikTok. It's not that different on Snapchat and on Pinterest. And even Google is working towards autonomy when it comes to their targeting and their media buying. All right, number 3, this is a really great question. It is, how do I hold myself accountable to execution? Now, we are all human. As much as I'd like to say that I'm in monk mode 365 days of the year, I'm not. Sometimes I sleep in. Occasionally, I might miss a daily workout. A few times a month, I eat foods that I probably shouldn't eat. And sometimes I find myself not doing the things that I know I need to do out of procrastination and laziness. Now, there's a few systems that I have implemented in order to reduce the likelihood of me not doing something that I tell myself I need to do. One, which is a very simple solution, is actually writing out and documenting the action items that you need to do in order to get to where you want to be. If you just have these things in your head and you don't actually have them written down, there's nothing that you can check off at the end of the day or at the end of doing that thing to give yourself some small sense of accomplishment. And at the end of the day, the goal is always progression. And by seeing that you're accomplishing these small wins throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, quarter, year, you're stacking this undeniable evidence that you are a person that does what you say you do. So if you haven't documented the things that you need to do, first, go ahead and do that. Now, secondly, if you have documented all of those things and you still find yourself not actually accomplishing them, you might need some reinforcement. Now, there's 2 types of psychological reinforcement. There's positive and negative reinforcement. Now, from what I've heard many entrepreneurs say, and from what I've seen in my personal experience, is that positive reinforcement is a better way to get you to do something than negative. That being said, a lot of people also respond well to negative reinforcement. But the point is, there either has to be a consequence of not doing the things that you say you're gonna do, or a reward that you present to yourself or that somebody externally presents to you for doing the things that you say you're gonna do. Now, for me, I started a positive cycle by actually applying a negative reinforcement system. I hired a virtual assistant to monitor the tasks that I would need to do on a given day and to hold me accountable and to push me and to remind me the things that I needed to do so that I didn't fall behind on them. So they were that little voice on my shoulder saying, hey Kyle, you got this. Here are the things you need to do. Did you get this one done? Did you contact this person that you needed to? Do you need my help in coordinating this or setting up a meeting here? And as bad as it sounds, you and I as humans, a lot of times will respond better when someone else tells us what to do than when we're responsible for creating that accountability system. That's why on a month-to-month basis, you might not be able to scrap the cash that you need to get into that coaching program that you like, or to be able to buy that new car that you want, or upgrade to that new apartment that you want. But every year come tax season, when the IRS is knocking on your door, you find a way to scrap up the money that you need to make that payment to someone else. And it's such an interesting concept that when it's doing it for someone else, or when someone else tells you to do something, you get it done more often than when you tell yourself to do it. And that's even something that I currently struggle with and that I work on to this day. So going back to this virtual assistant that I would hire, I would tell them to tell me to do the things I needed to do to remind me and to make sure that everything was finished on my to-do list for that given day, week, quarter, etc. And there was a penalty if I did not get that thing done. There was a consequence. So that's an example of negative reinforcement. So let's say every task that I did not do, I had to pay $25 to this virtual assistant. And at the end of the month, I had 20 tasks out of 100 that I didn't end up getting around to. I'd have to pay them a couple $100, which is never a fun feeling. And you can obviously adjust this relative to your income, whether that's adding a zero to it or deducting a zero to it. And you would be so surprised at how much more I was able to accomplish, and you might be able to accomplish, if there is a negative consequence, especially if it's something like financial, that is holding you accountable to getting that shit done. Now, on the flip side, I've also tried the positive reinforcement route. So think of something that maybe for you doesn't cost a lot of money, or maybe it does cost a lot of money. It doesn't have to do with money, but generally these action items that we set for ourselves in business translate to a positive ROI. And so what I have done is when I've accomplished a certain set of tasks that I told myself I was gonna do, I made sure to make time to give myself a specific reward. Whether that's a Netflix episode of a show that I'm watching, or whether it's going to the golf range for like a round of golf. Maybe it's going out to a nice dinner with me and my girlfriend that otherwise I would have felt undeserving for on a previous day or on a previous week where I just didn't get a lot of shit done. And that also can work incredibly well. But at the end of the day, there are all of these external ways that you can try to hold yourself more accountable, but it has to be something that comes from within. Number one, set SMART goals. If you don't know what those are, look up the acronym SMART so that you're not putting too much on your plate and you're not biting off more than you can chew. And just reverse engineer all the things that you usually do and the environment that you create on a productive day and try to replicate that on as many days of the week as possible. All right, moving on to question number 4. This is one that I get so often. It is, should I be worried about payment processor holds or Facebook ad account bans? Let me tell you, dropshipping is considered a high-risk industry. E-commerce is considered a high-risk industry. Why? I couldn't tell you. It's put up right there with gambling and porn and all of these other crazy industries, when in reality it shouldn't be. But that's a conversation for another time. What can you do as an e-commerce brand owner to protect your company from getting payment processor holds, or to protect yourself from having issues with your primary advertising platform like Facebook or TikTok or Google? Now, the first thing that I have to say is if you run a legitimate company, you'll be okay at the end of the day. I'm not saying that if you run a legitimate company that exempts you from having issues with payment processors and with Facebook. That couldn't be further from the truth, but it reduces the likelihood of any of those issues becoming indefinite, of these payment processors keeping your money forever, of Facebook completely terminating and banning you from their platform with absolutely no ability to get back in. That being said, it is a valid concern, right? With e-commerce, if you're scaling up too quickly, that's something that can lead to a payment processor hold. If you're having a high dispute rate, whether that's refunds, chargebacks, issues in general, damaged orders, those things can all come back to your processor and put you at a higher risk than when you originally got started with them. If you're not updating tracking numbers, if you're not shipping products quickly, you're not delivering a good customer experience, you're not communicating with your payment processor on big launches or when you're ramping up spend and scale. All of these things are stuff that you can do proactively to have a better relationship with your merchant processors, to reduce the likelihood of having issues with Facebook ad account bans and TikTok account bans. And fun fact, one of the biggest reasons for having a Facebook account ban is if you're using other companies or other individuals' content that you don't own. So if you create a content system to where you are creating a majority of the content that you're launching, if not all of it, and it's all original edited content and raw footage that you're getting from your own creators that you're communicating with, then the likelihood of you having issues with Facebook is so low. Fun fact, back when I had scaled my first $1 million per month brand, and we ended up having to switch over to a new processor, and we did things a little bit differently after the switch. We would call them every single day and say, hey, we're on a first name basis with the representative that we had with that payment processor, and we would let them know if we had increased ad spend the day before, if we needed a deposit to come in a little bit quicker. We moved all of the ad spend to the credit cards that we had with that specific company as well. And we were very transparent about all the things that they were doing, and that gave them a sense of relief at the end of the day. We also carried a pretty large cash balance. Now, when you see this activity and you see that there's a good chunk of cash flow, there's outgoing payments to suppliers, so they know we're fulfilling orders legitimately. There's outgoing payments to contractors, but there's a good cash reserve in the account, then you're not gonna have nearly as many problems with that provider than one who's maybe not able to see your financial records and information. They don't have evidence that you're fulfilling those orders in a timely manner and that your customers are having a good experience. So the short answer is no. If you plan on running a legitimate business, you shouldn't worry about payment processing issues and about ad account issues and bans and all of that stuff. And do not create problems that don't exist yet for your company. Because even if those things do happen in the future, there are solutions to them. I have solutions to them. I want you to come to me and ask me if I can connect you with my processors, and I can connect you with my Facebook specialist that can help you create a bulletproof environment to advertise in. Because I promise you, you will not be the first person to experience issues in these categories, and you most definitely will not be the last. But there are many, many solutions to these problems. So don't create them before you actually experience them. And if you do experience them, know that there are many solutions to these problems. Another quick tip is credit card management, right? So stemming off of payment processors is cash flow. Know your numbers. Document things from the beginning. I don't care if you think that you're going to scale up to the moon or not. Just know what's coming in, what's going out, and understand your cash flow management. And please, for the love of God, don't go and get a $20,000 business credit card to go all into your business that's not yet profitable. Yes, some people have done that and they've had success with it and they brag about how they took that risk. But for most people, it doesn't end up going the way that they want. I would use your credit card to invest in your profitably cash flowing business so that it simply helps you with cash flow, right? You don't want to borrow money to put into a business that isn't making profit. You can use your savings and you can take that risk. That's what I did. But I only touched credit cards for my business when it was actually turning a profit, because I could get 4 or 5 day delays when it comes to payouts, where my supplier would be hitting me up every single day saying, hey, we need this money now. And my team would say, hey, you need to pay me now. And so that just helps when it comes to cash flow management, right? Again, you should not be looking at it as taking a loan from a bank or from a card provider and hoping that this brand new business that you started up goes well. All right, this last question, I saved this best one for last, and it is, how would you guarantee failure as a beginner dropshipper or a beginner e-commerce brand owner? So I really like looking at the extremes of things. I like looking at both perspectives. How can you absolutely guarantee to set yourself up to be wildly successful with a specific business or a workout plan or a diet or whatever? And I like to look at the opposite, the question that I just stated. That being said, sometimes it's a lot harder to conceptualize what needs to be done to be successful. And it's a lot easier to map out the steps that it would take to be unsuccessful. This is a principle that Alex Hormozi and Layla Hormozi talk about a lot. Two very well-respected entrepreneurs in the business space who have also scaled a lot of e-commerce brands. And so to try to answer this directly and concisely, the things that I would do to set myself up for failure in e-commerce would be to watch a bunch of YouTube videos all day, just like this one, and then not actually apply that information to a business that I had created. Because by my definition of learning, that would mean that I'm never actually actively learning anything, because I'm not applying something new to the same environment that I've been participating in. So when I open up my Facebook ads manager, I'm not doing anything new, which means I didn't learn anything about Facebook ads. Or when I open up my Shopify store and I don't create a new and a better landing page, that means that I haven't learned anything new about offer positioning and landing page creation. So moral of the story, I would never apply the information that's readily availably abundant on the internet from people who have walked that path before me. I would test as few products as I possibly could, hoping that the very, very few products that I test do well. I would test products that everyone else is selling and not go after products with less competition and more availability of market share to tap into. I would run as few creatives as possible towards those products that I'm testing, hoping that the very few that I test are the ones that can make millions of dollars without any iteration or reviewing data or anything like that. I would put very little effort into my website, and I would just make sure that there's enough stuff there that a competent person would be able to go through and get a general idea of what the product does and check out. I wouldn't ever send any type of emails bothering customers that went through my checkout and didn't purchase to try to win back their business, because that would just be like bothering them. That would be, an annoying business owner. I would make sure to fulfill all of my orders on AliExpress so that the shipping time was super slow and I can get the lowest possible costs, because going direct to source could not possibly be any cheaper than going to what could oftentimes be a drop shipper themselves, just overseas on AliExpress. I would also make sure that when I do have a product that is selling really well, that I never order a sample and I never touch it, because I don't want to assume the risk of knowing whether or not that product is high or low quality, in which if it is low quality, it might incline me to stop wanting to sell it. So that'd be a really bad move, because then I would stop making money, right? I wouldn't ever email or call customers out of the blue asking them for their feedback on my product quality, or asking them how easy it was to navigate my website, or what about my ad or my product most compelled them to purchase it, because I wouldn't care about my customer's experience at all. And I don't think that would provide me any valuable insights to potentially expand my product line and make more money off of those same customers and to serve them in more ways. That would probably be a complete waste of time. I would hire a ton of people very quickly and spend as much money on the top talent possible without understanding foundationally how to do multiple areas of my e-commerce business, because that's what a bunch of very successful entrepreneurs have told me. Just hire a bunch of people because they'll run your company better than you ever could. Now, that being said, I would also probably just try to run my entire company, not ever hiring a single person who can help take some weight off my shoulders that may be more skilled at that specific area, or that may be able to help me buy my time back on mundane tasks like video editing and graphic design and designing landing pages and structuring email marketing campaigns, or running basic ads, launching new ad creatives. So I know that was a lot of information for that last answer, but I hope that makes sense, right? Do the opposite of all those things that I just mentioned. You should try to do, for the most part, like everything on your own in the beginning and keep costs as lean as possible. But it is okay to have a virtual assistant and to have a video editor or a graphic designer or a creative strategist help you with the conceptualization, the ideation of your content, maybe help you with some landing pages and things like that, but don't hire too quickly and bet the whole farm on people that you're working with, because in many instances that might disappoint you. Make sure that you're testing as many products as you possibly can within reason, that you're testing products that not necessarily everyone else is selling, but products that are a little bit less tapped into and that have more available people to sell that product to that haven't seen an ad around it. Make sure that you test a lot of really good creatives and you drive traffic to a very good, high converting landing page that talks about the pain points that your customer most likely has, that stacks all of the different benefits that your product provides, that's positioned in a way that's unique from your competition, that's marked up at a premium price point, so you actually have enough margin to advertise to your customers and to serve them in the best way possible. Work with good vetted sourcing agents and manufacturers so you can personalize the customer experience through private labeling, putting your logo on the product in the packaging, adding a custom insert and a slip to give customers a discount on their future orders, getting the product as fast as possible to them in secure and reliable packaging, and with vetted quality assurance to make sure that the product that they're actually getting is as described in your advertising. Make sure that you do communicate with customers and you ask them why they purchased the product, and you ask them what actually compelled them to buy from your website and what things they wish you would have included in your marketing or in the product and in the offer that would have made it even better for them. Make sure that you set up some basic abandoned cart email flow so that people that don't go ahead and purchase your products actually may come back the second time around and purchase through some form of a discount incentivization maybe. And one other thing that I didn't say not to do, but that I think you should do, is focus on one marketing platform at a time, right? You can scale to $100K a month, to $1 million a month, to $10 million a month. I've seen it. I've been a part of it with Facebook ads. And so until you get to at least 50 to 100K a month with Facebook ads, I wouldn't recommend TikTok ads and Pinterest ads and Snapchat ads and Google ads and all of these different things, right? Most of the brands that I've worked with and that I've scaled myself to $1 million a month or more, we're heavily reliant, 80-90% on Facebook ads, and maybe the excess from Google ads, right? Retargeting customers, getting some of that leftover search traffic, brand search keywords, and things of that nature. Now, there is a lot of different things that I could not unpack in this video, otherwise it would be hours and hours long. And there are probably so many different things that I'm missing here. But if you, who's watching this on the other end of the screen, has anything that you've specifically been struggling with that you're left absolutely confused with in the e-commerce regarding building a successful e-commerce brand, whether it is advertising, whether it's creative related, email marketing, team building, customer service, landing page and offer creation, whatever it might be, I want you to drop that in the comment section below so that I know what type of content is going to best serve you and help you accelerate your e-commerce journey so that it doesn't take you 7 years like it took me to get to the point where you have a portfolio of brands making millions and millions of dollars every single month. So go ahead and drop a comment. Let me know how you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.